Alright, here's my second video on exponential equations, and here we're just going to get some practice problems. I think this is one of those topics where with more reps you're going to get better and better at it. So we're going to start with this example up here in the top left. And our first goal is to rewrite these so that they have the same base. So I like the 2 because that's a pretty simplified base, but I can rewrite 8 as 2 to the third power. Once you've done that, if we have 2 to something is equal to 2 to something, we know that those somethings must be equal. Okay? So once I solve this little mini equation, I'm just going to subtract 3 from each side, and we get negative 2x equals 0. I'm going to kind of come up here where I have space. If I have negative 2x equals 0, I can divide by negative 2 on each side and get that x equals 0 is going to be our solution to that. Let's jump, how about down to this one? I think this is going to be our next easy example. So here I have 5 raised to some power equals 25. If I can rewrite those with the same base, we can set the exponents equal to each other. Well, just from experience, I know that both 5 and 25 are powers of 5. So I'm going to rewrite the 25 as 5 squared. Once you've done that, we know that our exponents must be equal. And so I'm going to solve. I'm going to subtract 2 from each side. And I'm going to divide by 2 on each side. Did I get the same answer on this problem? Looks like we did. Okay, don't worry, we'll do some later that have a different answer. Let's jump up here to these. Now these last two I think will be a little bit tougher because they're fractions. Okay. Ooh, this one's really tough actually. So right here we have 5 over 2 to the x power equals 4/25. Now if we can rewrite both of these with the same base, we can set the exponents equal to each other. So what I see here is I have this 5/2 to the x, but I just kind of think out loud for you guys. I'm thinking, okay, how can I turn this into a 5/2? Well, I know that 2 squared is 4 and 5 squared is 25, so I could rewrite it that way. Okay, I can rewrite 4/25 as 2/5 squared. But then we still don't quite have the same thing. In other words, I'm thinking, how could I flip this? And hopefully what you're saying is oh, I know how to flip a fraction using an exponent. If I rewrite that with a negative 2 power, remember how a negative exponent creates the reciprocal of your base? And so that's basically what we have here. And now that I've done all that work, we don't really have to solve. We know that those exponents are going to be equal because we have the same base. So we have x equals negative 2. So once again, I don't want to give you too much of an algorithm, but just problem solve. How can I manipulate? Typically you want to manipulate the more complicated base to make it look like the more simple base. Here's our chance to get some practice with that same idea. Okay, I have 2/3 to the x equals 9/4. Okay, and hopefully you're looking at this 9/4, you're saying, okay, how can I turn that into 2/3? And this really has a very similar structure to the previous problem. But if I look at that, I know that I can really write that as 3/2 squared because 3 squared is 9 and 2 squared is 4. But now we have 2/3 over here and we have 3/2 over here, so that doesn't really do what we want. But just like the previous problem, if I make my exponent a negative, 2/3 to the negative 2 is equal to 9/4. So all I've done is I've taken this and rewritten it with the same base. And then, once again, this one's just like the previous problem. We end up with x equals negative 2. Maybe I should have created a little bit more problem diversity, but these at least give you the structure for how to solve this type of problem.